Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We are coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania. If you want to, you can follow along with the sermons that we'll be using to start our conversations at whoisgrace.com/Mark. And there you'll find some other resources as well. So join us in the conversation today as we talk about the ancient truth and the person of Jesus, and we try to take that into daily life. So I'm here with the gang. The gang's finally together. This is our full panel. And so I want to go around and have everyone introduce themselves. And let's just talk about take it however you want. Let's talk about favorite foods, favorite cuisines, something like that. Mm-hmm. My name's Danielle Heartland. And I think I would go with probably shoot, I'm not ready.
You can only eat it for the rest of your life. That's
no.
We don't want to get that.
We don't
want to get that.
My name's Danielle Heartland. On to the next. Sarah, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hello, Sarah McCosco here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Again.
This is your house.
It is. I really like it. It's a nice house. I enjoy being here. Food I would eat for the rest of my life, burritos.
Okay.
Mexicana.
Okay, Mexican, because you could
Mexican food.
Correct. There's a lot of different types of burritos, so what are you trying to do here?
I didn't know we were going with just genres.
I didn't know either.
Do you want me to tell you what's in my burrito?
Oh, it is the same burrito?
It would be the same burrito. I would do shredded chicken, cheese, all the Mexican spices, sour cream, pico de gala, and did I say guacamole?
You did
Guac. Loaded.
You said pico de gallo wrong.
You said pico de gallo.
No joke, if there have been moments where I've looked at Ben and I have been if you do not take me to El Canelo or Pablo, whatever
Pablo
the new place
Escobar's
is.
house?
The new place in Girard. It's I don't even call, I call it Girard Mexican because I don't even remember the name of it. I'm just let's go to Girard Mexican. I will literally lose it. If I do not get fed.
All right, so Girard Mexican for the rest of your life. Mike. Welcome.
Done.
I'm just reevaluating my position on this panel next to Sarah. My name is Mike. I'm one of the pastors at Grace. I think can I say Gardy Lou to all of our fans out there? I would like to, if I could pick a cuisine. Gardy Lou. Check out last week's podcast if you're curious. I thought we were doing cuisine. Mediterranean. I like Mediterranean. The spices, the variety. Hummus. I do love hummus. So Mediterranean cuisine. I don't.
So I just started after this health thing I've been on. I started the Mediterranean diet basically. Oh. Which is it's just really just eating awesome food. I'm wait, what?
It's right.
This
great
is on
food
here?
With great spices.
Exactly.
They know how to use spice.
Totally. Do you have the traditional shaker of Greek spices that's secret that you can buy? Oh. They don't tell you what's in it.
No, but I'm intrigued.
I'm going to bring you some.
Oh.
Do you eat a lot of cucumbers then?
I do.
Yes.
Cucumbers, olives, tomatoes, fish, chicken you can do. A lot of
lamb.
Grains and pastas.
Yeah.
You can do lamb. Not a lot of red meat. Not any red meat really. Oh. Yeah. It's really fish-based.
It's a good one.
Protein. And beans and stuff like that.
Could you do it for the rest of your life?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
See?
Totally. And it's nice because it's not one of those ones that's if one day you have a Girard burrito, you've done everything. It's just what you're doing. It's just what you're. It's you live in the Mediterranean is basically what you're doing. Good one.
That.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
So speaking of living in the Mediterranean.
Okay, wow. You are.
My name's Stephen. I'm the resident Scottish person, but that's...
I thought you were going to say scholar, and I was going to be ponk. That's a punch sound effect.
That is not true. My wife and I took a trip to Italy, so we did Venice, Rome, and Sicily in one trip, and it was the food was amazing. Mm-hmm. So I think I would jump on your bandwagon over there, Mike, about living in the Mediterranean, but... giving up red meat, that'd be tough.
That'd be real tough.
That'd be really, really tough. I like a good smoked meat. It's real tasty.
I mean, they have some. They have some red meat, but...
They do. It's just not...
do.
It's
lamb would be the primary or something
filet,
that.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Off to
cool.
a good start today.
Yeah. So listen. So today's sermon only covers 5 verses, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. All this content, 5 verses. Excuse me. And so I thought first we could talk about, so we're going through, 9 through 13. 1:9 through 13 in Mark. Basically, the setting is Jesus' baptism. So one thing I thought we could talk about is, let's drill down on that. Why did Jesus have to get baptized? And what does that mean for us today? Any thoughts? Oh, Sarah's brewing something.
I always feel like I jump in first.
No,
Go for
please
it.
do.
Go.
It's a good thing.
So I very much appreciated Derek stating that, and I very much appreciate that Jesus did it as an example to all of us. I'm doing this. I don't even need to do it, but I'm going to do it. And so you really should do it. And for him to have this incredible moment with God during that time is something that, no, the heavens may not rip open when you get baptized and a dove may not descend from the sky.
Well, hopefully not, because then we have a problem.
But we have a problem.
We have a bigger problem.
We have a lot of construction problems. Yes.
Yeah, we have a...
But the moment
problem.
between you and God when you get baptized is almost that amazing. So
When did you get baptized? You remember how old you were, how long ago it was?
I was here, 2000, maybe 13, 14, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right.
Derek did it. Like I said, it was just incredible. And now being part of the baptism team and seeing the baptisms and being one of the first people they see when they come out and get to see that what's on their face, how they're glowing.
That's
and
really
there's just
cool.
such this amazement that they are going through. It's amazing. So
It's easily one of the coolest
Yes.
parts of being in vocational ministry is being involved in moments like that.
it is such a private, beautiful moment between you and Jesus Christ. And the fact that he said, no, it was addressed that no, about baptism, but I like how he approached it as, but if you are in this incredible relationship with Jesus, it's something that you really want to do. You want that moment between the two of you. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is amazing, because it is this really intimate, private moment, right? But it's also incredibly public,
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I think the publicness of it makes it that much more special,
Right.
because you're sharing something that means so much to you with the rest of the world, and I think there's just such a beauty to that.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same concept of a wedding.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's super private, super public, a symbol. It has all those same kind of components.
Yep.
I love the aspect of why Jesus had to get baptized to go first. It's just nothing we're asked to do as Christians when we're asked to be obedient. Nothing we're asked to do Jesus hasn't done first. Stated positively, Jesus has done everything he asks us to do, to include baptism from the very beginning, through walking through temptations and trials that we're going to talk about in a minute, through all the different ways Jesus expressed love and walked this earth. He did it, even into death. He died and led the way. So we're not asked to do something from a armchair quarterback. We're asked to do something by the man who went and did it as an example to us. And this is just kicking it off.
Yeah,
And
so
this is-
I see Jesus he's almost preparing a nation, right? So we have the nation of Israel, who have been, almost, for such a long time, there's been silence, right? And they've been waiting for this Messiah-like figure. And so John bursts on the scene and he says, this is a baptism of repentance. It's almost like this purity. And although Jesus is,
Right.
fully God, fully man, there's no need for him to repent of any sin. There is no sin in him. But he's preparing the way for a nation to be clean again before God. And he will eventually be the Lamb of the world. So I just think it's such a cool, okay, Jesus himself is preparing the way that he will actually make for us, but for us to be in relationship with God again.
Yeah.
Just
it's
such
beautiful.
a cool picture.
I'm a big picture person too, and knowing that this kind of voice from God, heavenly moment, ripped open, I think was the
Tore open, ripped
translation.
open.
Yeah, torn. Same language as when the veil's torn, spoiler alert, on the cross is cool.
Yeah.
It's all, yes, bookends to this, claiming Jesus as, Son of God, Son of Man, this new kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
all
cool.
beautiful. So speaking of that, we come across one of our themes in this encounter, and that's the Son of God, Son of Man theme. These times in Mark where he specifically points these out. So just wanted to call that out. That's one of those themes that we hit, and it'll be our question later for our next step. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between Christianity and other religions. Derek summed it up as the simple version is what? Christianity is basically God coming down to us. Other religions are very, not all, but most, works-based or earning something or, whatever. So let's talk about that relationship, religion, Christianity. What are your thoughts?
I love the illustration you had of him and his daughter, and now that I have a almost 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old daughters, so now illustrations like that hit home for me way more. But like just the idea of when my daughter runs to me, like I bend down to her. I don't require her to pull the chair up and get on my level, and that reverberated with me when I read that because that's 100% as children of God. He condescended, and there's all these negative connotations to that in our culture and our language, but he came down to our level in order to come and he did the hard work. He closed the gap that we couldn't. And that stands in such stark contrast to, again, other religions that will, whether implicitly or explicitly, have these steps that you've got to complete, and it's an all or nothing bid, and it is an all or nothing bid, but God has done it, and that's just, I don't think any human could make that up because it's such an inhuman concept. It has to come from outside of humanity, and it's super cool.
Yeah, and I think there's a humbling posture to that as well, right? Because when you think about having to work to earn something, all that does is birth pride in you, right? But when there's really nothing that you could do to earn what you want to receive, and yet someone purchased it for you, like there's a humility every time you receive a gift. Like when I'm thinking of a gift, like you really want, when somebody just gets you a gift, you're like, yeah, Starbucks gift card. Like, it's not always the thought that counts, right? It's not always the thought that counts.
It is not.
But when you've been desiring something, your heart has been desiring something, or like your wife listened or your husband listened, and they came in with that gift, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like I think about that as with the gift of salvation. Like our hearts, like all of us, inside intrinsically, we know we need something, we're longing for something, and when we realize and we see that that gift has already been purchased for us, there's just this mass amounts of humility. So what you do then is you live out of that humility. You don't work to earn that thing.
Yeah.
So it's just it changes the posture and how you choose to work, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And as humans, I feel like we have to. This whole thing, like this whole subject we're on right now, makes my head spin.
Oh, let's do it.
Like I have a really hard time getting my thoughts together.
That's okay.
At the same time, though, I look at that as almost like because what he does is so mind blowing, and you can't wrap your head around it, and it just goes again to show his power and how gracious he is and how much mercy we really get for everything. And I don't know, but I can't.
Great.
Speechless.
Well, I can't get my thoughts in order. But we as humans, we feel like we have to earn to get anything. We have to work to get anything. And sometimes I just cannot understand that he literally is just okay with us.
Yeah.
And I'm just supposed to be like, that's it? Like, but don't you need all this time for me? Don't you need my checklist? Don't you need my to-do? Don't I need to read the Bible every day to be a good Christian so you'll love me? And he's literally like, no, thanks. I don't need it. Like, and
No, he doesn't need anything.
Sometimes it rocks me.
And the flip side too, we can't earn it. And that's, I think everybody would be like, yeah, okay, we can't earn it. Like people who've been around the block for a minute with Christianity. But even then when we receive that gift that we haven't earned, there's a danger in trying to, okay, well now I need to like make myself worthy of the gift that I've gotten.
Oh, totally.
But even that
Yeah.
is, that's what we're supposed, sanctification, hopefully. We're becoming more obedient and walking in that. But again, there's no requirement. God desires it, but he doesn't require it in any way. Like that gift is still as active as it ever was. And so, I don't know. Again, it's human nature to want to fall in. I got to earn it. I got to be worthy of it.
Yeah.
But then to hear over and over again, whenever we fall into that trap that, nope, God loves you for who you are, simply because he chose to love you and to come down to your level and to do what you couldn't, it's that I just no human can come up with that.
Yeah, the phrase
Right.
that captures me often is that you will never be worthy. Like that's the truth.
Yep.
We will never be worthy, but we are wanted.
We were wanted.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
And because of the want, the desire that our Heavenly Father had, that want was the pursuit of our soul. We'll never be worthy, but He sent the one who was worthy, the only one who was worthy, in order to win back something that we had lost.
It's wild.
It's wild.
And really, and that gets to the whole relationship versus religion thing. Obviously, Christianity gets lumped into like religion, but that's more what we've done
Yep.
Correct.
institutionally, right? But really, Christianity could survive without the bricks and mortar. Like, you want the organization because it means there's, people are growing momentum, whatever. It's how humans measure things. But really, it's when you get down to it, Christianity is about God, and it's about our relationship with Him and how much He loves us. And that is so powerful because it's also not undoable by any other. You know what I mean? It's not like a...
Yeah, you can't.
It's not
There's
gonna fall
nothing that you
down.
can take away.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And yeah, you guys are making me think too of like a lot of times like with the buttoning up thing, like the verse about like we're not slaves to sin, we're slaves to righteousness, and how like that's a privilege also. Like that's a gift from God. Sanctification is a gift from God. And the misplaced thought with a lot of people outside looking in and even inside, like you're saying, is the sanctification is steps toward closeness with God. But all it is steps toward closeness of God because of the relationship. It'd be like if you got married, again, marriage. It'd be like if you got married and you were like, did the wedding and you're like, okay, well.
Gonna go back to my house now.
Yeah, I'll go to my house, you go to your house. And we can like share money sometimes or something. Or like, that's not marriage.
See you next Saturday for the date night.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's just not. So I think it gets twisted.
There's no relationship there. You can't
Right,
check the box
right.
of the wedding ceremony, check the box of the
Right.
marriage
You can.
certificate.
We know people like that.
But
I'm
if you
sure,
stop there, that's not a real marriage.
Right.
A marriage requires steps, a relationship that grows together, and that you become of one mind, and like
Right.
that should be reflected. Well, I mean, marriage is a reflection of
Right.
Christ and His church, and so
Yeah. Okay, other thing I know we wanted to for sure talk about is this, another theme that comes up is the cosmic conflict theme, a favorite of Sarah's.
Yes.
Yes. So we're talking about Jesus being tempted. Actually, let's back up. How many people do you know who have gotten baptized or yourself gotten baptized, and then it's like, bam, hit the wall?
World falls apart.
He's like, excuse me, no, I don't. Saint's like, no, thank you.
This is not prescriptive, obviously, but like it's an example of like, that happens. That
So I
can
was
happen.
16 when I got baptized, and then my pastor, he was very proactive about that.
Oh, nice,
So that was
yeah.
actually part of. I wouldn't ever say we did baptism classes, but we had to do like an interview. Make sure that our faith was legit, whatever, or at least we understood the gospel, and we loved Jesus. But he sat me down before, and he's like, "Listen, he's like, you're about to be baptized, which means the next." Month, 2 months. I mean, I'm not going to put a time limit on it.
Yeah, it's good.
But there may be some really hard things that come up, or temptations that have been there in the past that haven't necessarily been there recently because of this, high you're on and you're feeling really good. They're probably going to show up, and that was just so helpful
Oh my gosh,
to
yes.
be prepared for that, because when they came up, it was like, okay, he said it would. He said it was going to happen.
Right.
So I was super grateful.
That's
for that.
super. That's
That is.
It's even a little bit convicting for me, because we do the same thing when people want to
Yeah.
get baptized. And by the way, if you're interested, I think baptisms are next week when this airs. So, but there's kind of an interview to just kind of similar process at Grace, but it makes me want to double down and make sure that we're also kind of like getting ahead of the curve there if we can, and saying, by the way, I mean, even now in this role, like I was baptized years ago as a kid, but like Emily and I, my wife, we circle the baptism dates because we have learned we're going to get spiritually attacked.
Oh, wow,
We're going to have
yeah.
a crappy
True.
week leading up to that. When I preach, when we have baptisms, because
That's good.
I mean, Satan doesn't limit himself to the individual getting dunked in the water. He's going at everybody involved in something that he hates, that God loves.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and even I think my experience was I grew up Lutheran, and had a great relationship with my parents when I started coming to Grace and doing all the youth group things or whatever. As soon as I brought up the word baptism, you would have thought our family had a rift in it for 20 years. I mean, it just like, he just tore through my whole family, who really had, I mean, they were sideline viewers of what was going on with me. They weren't like, I wasn't super like, trying to like evangelize them and all those kinds of things. I was just living my teenage life. And yeah, and my mom, I mean, we said some things to each other, and like, that's what it was. That's totally what it was. It could have just been this like benign thing that was just like, oh yeah, Danielle's doing more stuff with that church. But that word, for some reason, set ablaze in my family. It was crazy.
So let's talk about the difference then between, because temptation's a reality, right? Yeah. But testing is also a reality. Like the testing of our faith produces endurance, steadfastness, so on and so forth. James talks about it. Jesus is half brother. But
fun fact with Stephen.
Fun facts. But
We'll make an icon.
But it's sometimes really hard to discern.
Yeah.
Right? Are we being tempted? Or are we being tested? Or is there a reality that what we're tempted with, we can also be tested through? So I don't know, just in your experiences, how have you been able to discern that? Like, okay, this is a temptation, or okay, this is a testing of my faith right now.
Well, you keep thinking, a good construct for that, I think Pastor Derek gave us very simple words. A test from God is designed to build you up.
Yes.
Build you.
You might not know right in the exact moment, but you'll feel it. And then a temptation is designed to take you out, take you down, push you down, put a lid on you, that kind of thing.
I'll say discerning whether it is a temptation or testing, or honestly just even recognizing and calling it. Often I'm best at that when hindsight is 20/20.
Of
so
course.
like I'm trying to get better like proactively, but I mean, I have sinful habits like anybody else has, and so the good news, and some of them have endured, and I fight those. So like I can recognize a subset of temptations because I know that I struggle with this, and I have struggled. I know what that is on a good day, right? Testing, and again, it's just I'm better at looking back at it in the rearview mirror, going, "Oh, that was a difficult season. I can see what God was doing there. He was putting me through that. There was a breaking down there, but so that I could be rebuilt back up in a way that then has provided me with experiences, skills, connections, whatever it might be." So, I mean, no testing is enjoyable, right, when you're going through it. And so that tends to cloud my perspective. It's hard to recognize it. Sometimes I get the grace of God where I can recognize it in the moment, but looking back to be able to parse out and be like, I see what God was doing there. Like, that's a bit of grace that I'm very thankful every time I get afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair.
So for me, a framework has been helpful. I don't think it's fully the answer, but it helps me filter things at times when I'm going through a moment. And it's this idea of receive, reject, and redeem.
Oh.
So there's certain things in your life, right, that you can receive in this world that are good. So I think in this category, as we're talking, that's not necessarily like, we don't really need the receive category to be able to understand.
Yeah.
But it's this redeem and reject. And I would say, as I look at my situation that I'm going through, if there's nothing redeemable about that situation, so like, let's just throw a porn addiction, right, out there. There's nothing redeemable about that. So that always fits into the reject category. So I can say easily that's a temptation. God's not going to test me with that,
No,
right? Because a good father would never put his son or daughter through something like that. Oh, I know you struggle with it. Well, here it is.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not-
gluttony. Oh, I know you struggle with
there's
that.
all this.
You know, God's not going to do that. So we can easily put that in the reject category.
Yeah.
But there are those moments in life or situations in life that can be redeemed. And so if there are those moments that, hey, God can really redeem this. So let's just say alcoholism as well. Obviously, we're talking in extremes. In some cases, that's in the reject category, right? Yeah. But in other cases, if you've come through it and you can now redeem it for God's glory, that could be, that could be something that falls into, maybe you haven't, been an alcoholic before, but maybe it's just
That's part of
an
redemption.
issue. Yeah, it's part of redemption. So that's always just been a really helpful category in those weak moments, because sometimes my filter is not good.
Yeah,
and I need a
right.
filter to lean on. And if I can go, listen, that's just, I need to reject that.
I'm definitely using this. Thank you for sharing that.
Then,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah,
I love that very much. Can you send me a Teams chat? So I remember it?
I'll message you later. Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it. yeah.
And those redemptive moments or redemptive, whatever you want to call it, habits or situations will, I would almost venture to say, always come with things that you need to reject. Those
Absolutely.
temptations.
Sure.
Temptations you reject, but that testing, those redemptive moments, that's the difficulty. That's where, thank goodness, we have the Holy Spirit, because you have to parse out, I need to reject this temptation while redeeming this portion, and what does that look like? But that's a super helpful. That's
And
fascinating.
another part of bringing back Jesus and our relationship with him, and not a religion, but a relationship, when you are going through a temptation, we have the ability to literally yell out to Jesus and be like, hello, I'm being tempted. This really sucks.
Hello.
Help me.
Yep,
Help
that's
me,
good.
please. And like with religion or any other religion, can you do that? Do you have the ability just to yell out to your God and have him be right there with you and help you through that temptation? No.
Not really.
So that relationship with Jesus is what gets you through that temptation. And the fact that we have him right there to yell out to, and he's right there with us to get us through it, is such a huge thing that you have to think about. So if you're being tempted, your reaction should be like, Jesus, hi.
Yeah.
Really going through it.
Not even yelling out. I mean, Romans 8, right?
Yeah.
That we had, remember, likewise the Spirit helps us in our weakness
Yes.
when we do not know what to pray for. The Spirit's praying for us.
Yep.
So even if we don't have the cognizance to yell out, we have the Spirit
Help
of
me.
God
Yes.
who's interceding for us in that moment. Wild.
To go along with what you guys are saying, the thing that helps me too is I have to remember sometimes that our enemy is not omniscient. He is not. He doesn't.
That's good.
He can't even read my thought. So if I'm having thoughts like temptation thoughts, he actually doesn't know the effectiveness of the temptation until my action. A lot of times for me, and again, on a good day, we're talking like, we were picked for this because we are actually perfect Christians, in case anyone wants to know.
Well, you guys don't know me.
On a good day, I can be in my head in a good way, discerning, praying, thinking, all the things, trying to figure out what's what, without exposing Satan to all of my inner thoughts and, blah, 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 whatever.
Do you ever have it in your mind where if something's going through it and you think to yourself, I don't want to say this out loud because I don't want Satan to know about it? And you only
stuff
do
like
things
that.
in your head?
I do stuff like that. I mean, sure.
I'm like,
sure,
I'm not
yeah.
going to say this out loud because I don't want him to know.
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
talk to Jesus in my mind.
Yeah. I think it's part of what got twisted about, you hear people talking about like the negative thing of like name it and claim it, or like saying something and living
Yeah.
it into existence and da-da-da-da. I'm not here for that. But there is something about saying out loud
Yes.
something that's like negative or positive, even like, having a growth mindset
Yep.
or whatever. Like that's all.
Now, while we're on this topic, one of the coolest books I've ever read, The Screw Tape Letters
Oh, yeah.
by
It's a
C.S.
good one.
Lewis,
Yeah.
is just recommend it. Quick, easy read, but it's
Book
such
recommend.
a great
Yeah.
book that almost gets you in that mindset of not seeing the devil around every corner, but at the same time, kind of, and just the schemes and the way that this cosmic conflict isn't just something we read about in Mark. It's something that's literally happening around us every second of the day. So The Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, it's a classic, fantastic book.
Will you Teams it to me? I'm going to get Stevens and now I'm going to get
You're gonna have a
yours.
lot to
Thank
do, a
you.
lot of
List of
homework after this.
resources. List of resources,
Wow.
guys.
Yeah, we'll put it on the list. Oh, yeah, we should add it to the list. Anything you bring up in the podcast. Other thoughts, guys, before we...
I wasn't expecting that question.
Oh, sorry.
I'm like,
Okay,
okay.
great.
One little thing though about when Jesus was tempted for the 40 days, what I find humorous about this is I love how he was trying to tempt him with things that are already his.
That's interesting.
Like Satan was like, I will give you all this land and la la la. And it's like, it's already his, bro.
Oh, yeah, that's
Why are you trying to tempt him with things that are already his?
That's interesting.
Ding dong.
I don't know.
I have other words for him, but we won't put him here.
Ding dong.
Ding. What a ding dong. Like, why are you wasting your time? That's something that's always stuck out to me.
That's so interesting. I never thought about it that way before, and I don't know what I feel about it. I don't know what I think about it.
So what I find interesting about the temptation as well is that I think that you can, and I'm not trying to parallel tempting and testing, because I don't think they necessarily happen simultaneously.
to, no.
Correct.
But Jesus was tempted in the desert, but yet he came out stronger.
Yes.
Well, because the test was yeah, right.
Yeah. So there's also the opportunity in the midst of temptation to grow in your faith. And I even think about like Job, right?
Yeah,
he was
a careful one.
Right, but he
Yeah.
was definitely,
Right.
there was a lot of temptation. There was a lot of destruction. There was a lot of life that was just torn apart by deception and by the devil himself, right? But at the end of that journey, there was a praise, right? There was an adoration. There was a recognition of who God is. And so even in our temptation, as our life is falling apart, it's still a beautiful opportunity for us to
Yes.
look. And I love that psalm, right? It says, I lift my, I look, now I can't even remember it. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? And I just love the picture that it's like I can look at this grandiose, that's not a word, but
Go for
whatever.
it.
Scottish.
That Gardy Lou, right?
Gardy Lou.
I can look at this beautiful mountain, like just magnificent in its splendor and its beauty, but I lift my eyes to the hills, but where does my help come from? The maker of heaven and earth. So it's like I lift my eyes to the hills and I see this beautiful thing, but I actually petition the one who made that.
Yeah, that's good.
And so there's just, I think there's a real opportunity that we have in the midst of temptation to just declare who our God is.
Yeah.
And, dare I say, claim that for ourselves because Jesus bought it for
Yeah.
us. It's ours to own. So there is a victorious nature that we can walk in.
Yeah.
In the midst of that temptation.
And then almost coming full circle now, because we talked about Jesus' baptism at the beginning and how he doesn't ask us to do anything he's not done or ask us to go do anything he's not gone through. He gets baptized and we follow in that example. If Jesus got tempted,
Yeah.
we're going to be tempted. We're going
Right.
to go through difficult times and this is, I think, just part of talk about cosmic conflict and the way Satan has just woven a masterful tale of, oh yeah, when you become a Christian, then life becomes perfect. Right? And he's
Right.
influenced our culture to believe that, and then that causes so many people to just like lose hope and lose faith when things get difficult. Like, friend, if you come to Christ, it's probably going to get harder, if anything, but like
It
it's
is not
worth
the path
it.
of least resistance.
It's not the path
Definitely
of
not.
least resistance, but geez, it is worth it. Like, it is so worth it. But that's why you need community. That's why you get the Holy Spirit to walk with you. Like, if it happened to Jesus, boys, I mean, they're going to hate you because they hated me. They're going to reject you because they rejected me. So don't be surprised, and then lean into the system that God has designed through his church, through his Spirit,
Yeah.
through his word, to support you in that and keep marching along.
And don't feel like you have to act like it's all buttoned up.
100%.
I think
True that.
one of the best things we could do for our movement is act like we feel.
Be honest.
Be honest about what we're going through. Be honest about, be vulnerable. Because we're getting that picture of like one of the big fall downs is just, well, they're a bunch of hypocrites. They're supposed to be perfect now. Where did that even
Who told you
come
that?
from? We did. We told them that.
Well, yeah.
Speaking of humility, Stephen, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Did you ask your neighbor for any tools last week?
So I thought about that driving in today.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I should have asked.
And texted his neighbor.
Guys, this is how
Texted him
accountability
real
works.
fast.
Yeah.
So my neighbor next door, I didn't actually see much activity from the house.
Okay.
Next door, but a substitute,
Yeah,
right?
great.
We did engage in conversation with our neighbor across the street. I didn't ask him for anything.
That's okay, but you
I
engaged
didn't
them.
necessarily have a need for anything, so I didn't want to like make something up. But I at least had some interaction.
You're not going to be able to ask for eggs pretty
I'm like,
soon.
hey, can I have that trowel that I don't need?
That's funny.
But we have wonderful neighbors. But I took it as an opportunity to continue to get to know them.
Great.
Great.
To continue
Perfect.
to build.
Good job.
So discipleship failure a little bit, but
No, it's great.
I pivoted.
You're
right?
doing it.
I pivoted.
That's great. Good job. Okay, so we want to give you some next steps as usual. Don't forget, you can go to whoisgrace.com/Mark And you can get all the resources that we've talked about today and additional ones, as well as the sermon. You can also submit a question to us that we can answer on a future week if you want to. Another next step, whether you're here where we are in Erie, Pennsylvania, or you're listening from somewhere else and you have not been baptized yet and you're a believer, I think all of us here would say find a way to get that done. Just do it. Just do it. It's not anything that's going to... Anyway, just do it.
Yeah.
Pastor Derek said it better than any of us can. Just do it. Okay, and then the discipleship question of the week. This goes along with our theme of the Son of God, Son of Man. The discipleship question is, how does this picture of Jesus compel me to live differently? So this picture that we're reading about his baptism and his temptation and trial in the wilderness. So how does this picture of Jesus compel me to live differently? Next week, Pastor Sarah will be bringing the word. She'll be in 1 verses 14 to 34. So if you want to hone in on that.
20 verses. Bold.
Yeah, Derek.
Taking it on.
Derek took 30 minutes to talk about 5. Sarah's going to have to talk. Wow.
For 5 hours?
Wow. Yeah, she had a 5-hour sermon.
I don't preach because I take 30 minutes to talk about one verse.
Oh, here we go.
That's my
Here we
problem.
go. Here we go.
60-minute sermon guy here. So I know we're wrapping up here,
No, go
but
ahead.
I love the idea that, we're talking about this baptism.
Yeah.
And we all agree that it's something that Jesus didn't need to do.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about why he did that. But I think about it in light of that discipleship question. What about this picture of Jesus should encourage us,
Yeah, that's great.
in our life? How is a discipleship question asked?
How does this picture of Jesus compel me to live differently?
Right. Because is this the reality that Jesus didn't need to do something,
Yeah.
yet he chose to do that, right? He didn't need to be baptized. And so I think about that practically in my life. What times in my life, either do I not want to do something or do I just not need to do something, but maybe I should in order to lead other people to see God's glory. Because that's literally what happened, right? Jesus didn't need to do it, but his act allowed those who were looking in to see the glory of God. Yeah. And so maybe it's me abstaining from doing something or actually doing something that I wouldn't normally do or don't need to do. And I don't know what it is for everybody's life,
Right.
but I'm certainly going to be thinking about it this week. It's going to be on my radar.
It's good.
I don't want to do this or I don't need to do this, but maybe
did he do
I
it?
should.
You
Would
don't-
Jesus have done it? Maybe
You
I'll
don't.
put that little
How
band
would he
back
have
on
done it? Yeah,
WWJD,
we'll
right?
just do-
Oh, boy.
Holler to those 90s Christians.
Yeah.
You don't need that trowel, but maybe you do need that trowel from your neighbor next door.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you
said
did there.
trial.
Yeah.
You said trial. We've got some accents here, people. That's great. Good way to end it. Thank you, Stephen, for that question. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.